It's always a lovely time to sit here and discuss issues that concern not just me and my colleagues here, but the entire Nigerians and everybody indeed. My name is Elizabeth Abai, and the program is Conversations. Now, we are born, we grew up, and we get to a certain level we all pass on to. That's what the Bible says when it says a time for everything, a time to be born, a time to grow, and a time to die. When we grow up, at a point, we become fully grown and we become aged. Yes, that's the word. A lot of us are scared of it. A lot of us are oftentimes very confused with what to do with ourselves about that time. A lot of us do not even understand how to begin to prepare for that particular period. But it is a time in our life that is very imperative, very paramount. And it's also better if we understand it quite early in life. Now, today we're going to be talking about geriatrics and how to care for the elderly. I don't know anything about it, but I can assure you the people in the house are well vested. I'll let them introduce themselves, and let me start with someone I quickly call Minister for Aged People. Her voice has been on it for so long. Let's have you introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Mokaro. I'm the Director General, National Senior Citizen Center.
Okay, so you heard it all. I said it. She is the director for elderly people, and just beside her is a doctor, but I'll let her still do her thing.
Dr. Betta Edu, the Commissioner for Health, Cross River, and the National Chairman, Nigerian Health Commissioners Forum.
Okay, so when we're going to be looking at the health for the aged, she'll be here to voice her own beat for us to learn. And you don't need any introduction.
My name is Joy Panachi, and it's good to be here this morning.
Joy will tell you that she's a blend of the old, the young, and everything together because she has it all. And just before we quickly go into the topic, let's see what we've put together from behind the studio.
I would like to be somewhere where I can rent a house or be in my own house, and then I have like a caregiver to take care of me. And then I will not want a situation where my children are complaining I'm overburdening them with my things. And you know, as one grow old, like my mother right now, I'm saying she's behaving like a little child, but I know I'll get there eventually. But when I get there, my mother is taking good care of herself. She has people who take care of her, and I know I'll do better in my time. I will not want to be too dependent on my children, actually.
When I am old, I would certainly love to be around people. I wouldn't want to be alone. So having my grandchildren and my children around me, it gives joy, and that will also increase one's lifespan. But then nobody can take care of your own better than you. Being your parent, you understand them more than an outsider. So that I will prefer when I am old to be with members of my family and not to be with a caregiver.
My grandchildren, yeah, I love them around me. I like children. I like them to call me grandma, run around the house, give me some vibes.
I think I would love to have my children around me when I grow older.
No, I can no longer stay with my children at some age. So I would give them their space, and I prefer someone taking care of me if I'm not able to do that myself anymore. So I wouldn't stress them much. They have to face their life.
I would rather stay at home with my family than going to old people's home, because I feel my family will take good care of me more than the old people's home.
I'd like to stay with my family and not in the old people's home, because staying with your family, they give you joy. And also staying in the old people's home, it has so many disadvantages, because people won't tend to take care of you like your family would do. They tend to scold you or insult you even in your presence.
All right. Quite opinion there. A lot of Nigerians have their own opinion, and it's surprising that Nigerians are actually beginning to understand that they could have a choice, go to old people's home or be wherever they want to. I don't know, but let me start by asking, a lot of times we say senior citizens, aged people. Who are these people?
In terms of chronological age, the United Nations and African region, I mean, globally, older persons are persons that are 60 years and above.
60 years and above.
60 years and
okay.
above. And there is no typical older person. You can't describe an older person.
I can decide to
You
be
cannot
old.
describe an older person
Okay.
because that population category, is very diverse. You can have somebody that is 60, 65, 70, and still very full of vigor, very strong, and just very independent and very, going about his or her own business. And then you can also have somebody that is 60, 65 years old and needs care. So when we talk about older persons, the stereotype that the tendency is to lump this population category as if they are homogeneous. They are not homogeneous.
Okay.
That is why when we talk about care, of older persons, it's a continuum. It's a continuum of services. You have those who are independent and what they need is to continue to live healthy. So those services and programs that they need to keep them healthy, nutrition, health promotion, care literacy. And then you also have those ones, that, need company. They are getting old, not that they are really old and, vulnerable and, needing really, care. It's just that they need company. And so there are also activities and, programs that are designed for those ones because they need company, they don't want to be lonely, they don't want to be isolated. And then you have the other end of it, persons whose functional capacity has declined and has, gone through that spectrum that they really, really need help. You have persons with cognitive impairment, you have persons, like dementia. You have those ones who have
so scared of that one.
Locomotion problem, walking. You have sensory impairment. It's a whole range. So when we talk about older persons, let's bear in mind that it is a whole range.
The basic thing I just pick from here is it's not homogeneous. It mustn't all be the same.
Yeah.
Maybe Dr. Edu will get to let us know what to do early. Some people say if you start early, you can actually avoid some of the problems or peculiarities of old age. How real is that?
Well, when you say if you start early,
the way you live your life.
Yeah. So lifestyle, right? Lifestyle modifications would really, really help. In fact, your lifestyle, your daily activities would determine how long you can really live, to be very honest. So when you have people who are involved in things we used to term as risk factors, at old age, you see them coming down with conditions, health conditions that are connected with those risk factors that they have been involved with. I'll give you some examples. So in your day-to-day life, a lot of people consume a lot of salt. Those kind of people, as they get older, you're already waiting to become hypertensive. Yes. So we try to tell people consume less of salt. You find people, they just come and they carry the salt and throw it into their food.
It's not even sweet.
Exactly, and they just think it's the way they live. You find people who don't exercise. So because they are maybe in the higher strata of life, in the upper class, you find them going from AC room to AC parlor to their cars to the workplace. No time to stand up, move around, do your exercises at least for 30 minutes to 1 hour every day. They have already set themselves up for tragedy at old age. But if you exercise every day for even 30 minutes, you would have elongated your life for more than 10, 20 years.
Also for those who are born slim,
So it's not even a matter of slim or it's not the size business now. It's the functionality of your heart, your body, your internal organs. As you exercise every day, you're actually in a way really detoxifying yourself and keeping yourself fit. So it's not about fat or slim. I used to tell people I do exercise for 1 hour every day, and I'm not doing it because I want to lose weight. I'm okay with my weight. I'm just doing it because I want to keep fit and be healthy. And when I'm probably 70, I want to look almost the way I look right now.
That's how to go.
Wow.
Now, why are people scared of old age? That's the point.
Wow. I'm scared.
You're scared
I'm
too?
scared.
Oh my God.
I live in the real world. And I see, it's scary. I'm going to give some points now. One, if you don't have kids, so you're sure you're not going to have grandkids as well. So when you're old, the problem now is who takes care of you when you're old? It's a mental issue. It's a mental issue because people have seen people who don't have kids, and in this environment, caregivers are not what we talk about. If it's the other climate, it's easier to work because it's their lifestyle. Everybody minds their business. Definitely. But in an African setting, family is key to everybody. So you don't expect an outsider to take care of you. When you have kids, you expect them to take care of you when you're old. So the thing here now is that love is so key. I always tell people that love expands lifespan. Because if you're with your family, like I always say that people who have male children, because we talk a lot, and people who have male children say, oh my God, why don't I have a female child? Why? Because if you go to your daughter-in-law's house, you don't expect her to treat you
as your daughter would.
As your daughter would.
It's never the same.
Yeah, it's reality.
And that's the truth.
It's reality. So most of the time, many people who have male kids keep trying to have female kids just because of old age. Fear.
Yeah, I would like to cut in there, and in her, identifying the reason why she's afraid of old age. I'm sure you're not alone in that category. So many people are afraid to grow old. She has touched on family, okay, and she has touched on the place of adults, children, or even grandchildren. And you have also touched on that very critical factor in old age that, as a matter of fact, is nearly the most critical factor that keeps them alive or keeps them dead. Isolation and loneliness, that social connection system. And then you talked about, the other climb in the developed, societies where they already have systems in place. They have institutions because they have policies and they have, the mechanisms to do all that. I am glad to be on this program because let me bring the other angle now. For a very long time, in fact, for the 60 years of Nigeria's existence, we didn't have anything like that. And you have said that, for so long, there were advocacies, and you identify some faces.
I've actually followed your lead for a very long time.
So now I'm very happy to, to announce, like most people now are getting aware, that by an act of parliament, by an act of the National Assembly, the National Senior Citizen Center Act 2017, now the present administration, the president, Muhammadu Buhari, signed that act into law, signed that bill into law. So now, following from that, the National Senior Citizen Center, which is an agency of government, has been established with a board. And what is the mandate of that center? Is to identify the needs of senior citizens and to cater for them. And now identify those needs. And principally, what this is that now we have a national policy on aging. We've never had a national policy on aging, never, ever. And that national policy on aging has, some strategic objectives, which is number one, to stop the stereotyping, stem the discrimination and the abuse, which is very right.
Fantastic.
Number two, identify programs, income security, because, the fear now, why most older people are vulnerable, is that, if you notice, is the trajectory of life. Those ones who began very poor end up growing old and in severe poverty.
Sure.
And those ones who began...
We give them names. Some of them, we call them witches.
Exactly. And those ones... And aging for the woman is not the same as aging for the man.
Yeah.
So you see, older women, most of them will be widows because their husbands would have, left them.
True.
And then older persons now with cognitive impairment. So you see, this category, diverse, population with different, needs. So now this is the center now that is going to articulate all that with the policy and with the act, and then set up certification of care homes, national curriculum to train caregivers. So a time is coming with sensitization, social mobilization, that you find that now the market is growing. The geriatric market is growing. Where, because, most of your children, you've sent them abroad. That's where they're schooling. So you set this up for yourselves. So a time is coming where Nigeria is coming to that space. And why people are adverse is that now, aging in place is the best, where you age in place. For instance, I would like to age where I'm familiar with. Normal. But even with that, it has to be modified in a way that you age, you don't get into all those risks, like doctor, the falls and all these things. And it has to be also with people that care for you, because it's in this age category that you have multi-morbidities, as you know. So, polypharmacy, have plenty of drugs they have to take. So it's a range. But Nigeria, we have to get to that place where we will trust institutions, not necessarily to build old people's home, but to be able to train caregivers that can come into your home
and
help you.
And help you.
I would want to just find out a little bit on that. First, I must congratulate the president, Muhammadu Buhari, for signing that into law. I would like to ask, how involved is the health sector in this? First and foremost, I think we should know that the demographic is changing. Before now, the life expectancy for people in Nigeria really tops at 50 something, right? 54. So if you go beyond 54, you're just among the fortunate very few that get old. But as things continue to improve, as the economy continue to improve, as things are better generally, then you now have a longer life expectancy and people begin to live older. And it comes with a lot of burden on the country, on the state, on the economy. It comes with a lot of burden because these are not persons who are actively working, but have to depend on the system for healthcare, for other things, depend on their family for love and support and the rest of it. Just like she was saying, outside this country, in fact, that was one of my biggest dreams, and it's still part of my agenda, to create a hospices in Nigeria, because we don't have that yet, of functional hospices. I've served in one before in the United States, in Arkansas, where you go there to take care of old people, and actually they come in their numbers. Their families just keep them there in towns that are close to them, so every other time they can come in and check up on them, especially those who have terminal illnesses. So you have cancer, or you have chronic high blood pressure, or chronic diabetes and the rest of it, and you need hour-to-hour monitoring. So there are nurses, there are caregivers, there are people who check on you on a day-to-day basis, and then of course from time to time they do some recreational exercises with you, try to take you around. We don't really have such in Nigeria, but like she said, we're gradually growing nearer to that.
Can I jump in here?
Yeah.
You see, there is the tendency when you're talking about older persons and this population, all you see, you look to them with a pessimistic lens, and that lens is the lens of burden. Like she aptly described the burden, the cancer, the disease, and all that. But I want to bring good news. That this population category, I go back to what I said, is not homogeneous. And this population category, to a large extent, depending on what the government, the framework, the mechanism, and the procedures that were laid in place to bring inclusiveness in development agenda. This is the population category that continues to bring economic value because of the contributions they make. This is where you have the experts. Think about people, engineers, doctors, nurses, matrons, teachers. Think about the people that have retired at 60. Where are they? What are they doing?
We can still,
with all the investments, the education.
Yes.
Think about, their expertise, the experiences they carry, and think about our youths. This intergenerational schism, where our youths don't have life coaches, where we don't have intergenerational synergies.
Yeah.
So when you look at the population of older persons, you think economic value. How can we enhance their capacity? How can we build systems that would bring them in? Not necessarily to go back to government work, no, but enhance their capacity for them to continue.
Well, some policies have extended their stay in government work, like health workers.
Exactly.
Yeah, health workers, and I was really very happy when I heard that they can now retire at 70.
Yes.
So the nurses, the doctors will be there to mentor the younger ones that are coming up, and I thought that was really very great.
So just to conclude, so let's have a wider view, because that's what the center is bringing in.
Oh, great.
Because if you look at the arts that has established the center, it lists what we need to do. Create training opportunities, lifelong training opportunities, enhance their capacities, initiate work schemes, bring in entrepreneurship. Why? Because they have realized that aging is not the end of life. Aging is living, living is aging, so that they can continue to participate and do things. In fact, you discover that a lot of the inventions that we know today were people who were in their 60s and 70s.
Fine.
Because they had that, age-friendly environment that they could continue to, engage their capacity, because we have latent, transformative capacities. They are potentials. Okay. But it is ageism, stereotypes, negativity that just shut you are old. They say you are ugly, you are old, you are spent, So
can I chip in now?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Now you're not afraid anymore.
See, I'm chipping in now because I'm a neutral person. I don't work for government. I am, let me say, somebody in the society. Yeah. So my views can be different, can be a bit different from your views. Socializing. Yeah. I've noticed that most people who are elderly tend to socialize, especially in church.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. It keeps them busy.
Yeah.
It keeps them going. Yes. It keeps them living.
Yes.
And like if you are in the Southwest, I noticed most elderly people like to go for Owambe, and all that. And most of the, I used to ask and say, why do you like, because I have so many elderly friends, and they used to tell me, it just keeps me alive.
Yes.
It keeps me living.
Even going for burials.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Yes.
Interaction.
Yes. I want to be with my peers. I want to be with my likes. I want to see, because if you're indoor, you don't see anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't see anything. So now, yes, with all these things you have said, my problem with government that it takes time. Mm-hmm. Just paying pensions to the elderly is tedious. Mm-hmm. When I see them all sitting down, lying down, we should be able, for me, the pension thing is key for me, for the elderly.
Yes.
We have to get that right first.
Yes.
We haven't gotten that right first. Now they're bringing other government things. Okay, the president has signed this. President is fantastic. I'm happy. I'm excited.
But implementation.
Because from federal, how does it trickle down to the states? So it's going to, because I'm a Nigerian, I live in the real world. We know the way things work here. If things are not done from pension, paying people who have worked, and this pension, it's their dues, it's what they have worked for, and they can't get it, and they're going through all this, even with biometrics. When there were no biometrics, it was difficult. Yeah. Now government brought in biometrics. They are still having issues. I trust the government is going to do a very good job. That's why we're here to talk about it.
Why you're here.
No, and that's why she's here.
You won't be fighting for them.
So that's why I said I'm a neutral person.
I want to say here that for the pensions, you have the Pensions Act. You also have agencies that have set up particularly, specifically to deal with pensions. You have the Pension Commission, and then you have the PTAD to deal with the defined pension scheme.
Yes.
And I know that I'm not speaking for PTAD, but because I've been in this field for so long, first on this other side in the space of as an advocate, and then now on this other side, I know that there's been a lot of tidying up. You mentioned about the biometrics.
Yes.
Because it was so messed up for so long.
So
there's been a lot of, and there's still more to do.
Yes.
But coming back to the agency now, this new agency, and the vision that we see, and somebody asks, and that's the frequent question I get, government, we are good with policy, we are good with this, so how do we think it's going to go? I believe that the National Senior Citizen Center was long in coming. And now that the National Senior Citizen Center is here, older persons have taken ownership. In fact, our first outing was to engage senior citizens. And as I speak to you now, we are almost, halfway through our strategic plan, a 10-year plan. It's something that we are sitting down to really plot and plan. We are not jumping into it. And this engaged all the critical stakeholders in the 8 very solid categories. The MDA's government, the professionals you talked about, our doctors involved. Yes, Geriatrics Association is very involved. Federal Ministry of Health is very involved. National Primary Health Care. I will speak now. In fact, we are discussing with primary health care on how we can mainstream geriatric care into the primary care. We've gone far. And then, of course, older persons themselves.
Health insurance too, which is covered.
Very important.
Yeah, very important.
As we even speak, there's a ministerial committee on health insurance, which I was a member before I even became DG. And now the report is out because this government is very, particular about, covering, bringing health insurance to older persons. And then, of course, health insurance has to be health insurance where some people pay premium, but also where those ones are really, really vulnerable. See it as social assistance that are covered. The states come in there and the local government come in there.
Okay.
So I was saying that critical stakeholders are involved here. We have the private sector. Not long ago, we engaged the private sector because there has to be partnership for solutions. So when we sit down and say government has done this, government will fail. It depends on the approach. This is not government. This is government with critical stakeholders. For instance, the Pharmaceutical Association. Pharmacies, as far as I'm concerned, I'm sorry to say, they are a bit underutilized in Nigeria. It's just to dispense maybe from them. But pharmacies can do a lot when it comes to health promotion. We are engaging them. We're engaging the insurance company for long-term care situations and case management and home care. So what is that innovation that you're going to bring to relieve adult children and older persons from paying out of pocket when it becomes an extended, like supplemental to the NHIS? So we are making everybody to take a stake. The media, you've taken a stake with us for long, but now critically, as you're taking a stake. So let us not come to that place where we all throw up our hands and say, oh, government is going to fail again. No. We are coming to your local government, for instance, and we are coming to your community. Anti-elder abuse, community-based rapid response squad. How do we prevent the abuse of that old woman that you know?
It's very important.
So there are so many things.
Very,
let's own it.
I've heard a lot of old people being called names. Some, they even tell you that they use their their children to prolong their life.
Exactly.
I don't know the exchange rates. I don't know how it works, but
I think
that's
it's just
kind
society.
That's crazy. It's
society.
Crazy.
I think it's just society.
Let's go back to practicalities now. Dr. Du, I'd like you to tell me, as a potential elderly person I am. Yes, everybody wants to
actually, right? Unlike her, I'm just waiting to get old. Like, I really look forward to it. It's happening every day. Okay, so the point is this, right? I've been in a space for so long where people keep referring to you as being very young. Very young, very young. So every birthday of mine, the first thing I say is, I'm older now, like I'm trying to beat it in. So I really can't wait to get really old.
I can't wait because I know when I'm old, I'm going to have a...
I just know I'll be happy, that's all I know.
I'm going to have a bubbling old age.
God bless you.
No, but you see, it doesn't start when you're elderly. It's a process.
Exactly.
So
you plan for it.
So you have to plan for it.
True.
Like now, let's take it. The elderly, they never go to the hospital for checkups. For me, basically, that's the problem I always have. Because somebody said, I think we had a social gathering and we talked about medical. And I think it was a cancer week and Dr. Zainab, the Kebbi State governor's wife, Medicaid. And we're talking about elderly people. And somebody said, I don't go to the hospital.
They'll tell you
I go to the pharmacy.
Yes, and I'll tell you why.
And sometimes I sit down and so you know what I said? I said, you're too old to even go to the pharmacy. Because even the younger ones are too old to go to the pharmacy. So when you're elderly, I think the key thing here is you have to do your medical checkups.
It's very, very important. At least once in 6 months if you're above 60.
Yeah.
You need to go check yourself up.
You have to check.
A comprehensive one.
You have to check. But you see, somebody now said, but we don't have the funds.
And that's where the insurance comes.
That's it.
That's where the insurance comes.
So that's
if you
why
have a functional
sometimes, like I
insurance.
always say, it's not good for elderly people to just stay at home. I think you should go out, socialize, and talk about these things, and try to advise them on what to do. Because for me, what is key? Medical.
Okay, now if I'm 60 and above, what kind of what routine health checks should I be doing?
So first and foremost, first, like I would always advise, before you get to 60, modify your lifestyle first, so you don't set yourself up. Reduce alcohol, try to sleep as much as you can, eat right, don't be a glutton eating everything you see, because it will lead to obesity, and that comes with everything else in between, diabetes, name it. You just keep going and going and going. So try to look into all of those. Drink water frequently so that your kidneys are good and up. And then as you approach 60, in fact, before you get to 60, from your 40s,
Agree.
you need to begin to be intentional about your health check. So like you tell women, sometimes you tell them, go and do your mammogram, go and scan your breast, and they say no, we don't want to do it, because when you scan, that's when you see.
Oh, what you don't know, you don't know.
No, that's not true.
What you don't know does not.
The point is this, right? You don't want to know when it's too late.
Yeah.
Most times in Nigeria, people die because they expect the hospitals to do magic, which cannot happen. If this cancer or if this disease was found at a very, very early stage, you would probably have cure, and you'll be done with it. I know so many survivors of cancer, so many people who dealt with high blood pressure and they're doing well, so many people who dealt with diabetes and they're 70 years without any issues. But when you find out at the point of complication, let's say for instance your toe develops a wound that would not heal, and then you're not feeling any sensation around there, and then you go to the hospital, and that's the point where you're finding out that you have diabetes, because the complication of the diabetes, trust me, the chances of them amputating that leg, it's really 90%. Very high. So you don't want to wait to that point. So every time I would advise above 40 once a year, do your total medical checkup. If you can afford an MRI, please do same. If you can't, just go ahead and do all the liver function tests, kidney function tests, check your heart, do the echogram, all of those things, get them done head to toe, right? And then they do a physical examination in a hospital, not in a pharmacy. Let them properly examine you. Once you're 60 and above, you should try to make this every 6 months. My dad, he's 69. And every 6 months, I ensure that he's being checked and monitored. The last time, he almost had a transient stroke. If not that, he went for his medicals. And they found out that his blood pressure had been elevated for a while. And even the drugs he was supposed to be taking, he had stopped. Maybe he was feeling good and fine with himself. And so he just decided to abandon it. And he almost had a stroke. Almost. In fact, we had to do an MRI and all of that, and thankfully he's fine and okay. Right now he carries his drug in his bag. He said, I just have a second chance to life, you get. So if you check every 6 months, then you reduce those chances of getting caught in midway with stuff you don't want.
Okay, so that brings us to health insurance.
Yes, very important.
It's not everybody that can afford
it.
Do the checks.
So health insurance should cover for that.
Yes. So now, I earlier had talked about this interministerial, committee on, on NHIS for retirees and the older person. Because of course, now if you retire, you drop off. That is what it is. So trying to bring them back in, and then now trying to create, the opportunities and products for others, depending on where they are. So now, to do that, first and foremost, you have to know what this would cover. So now when we talk about the basic health package,
yes, of course.
So the question now was, should the basic health package be universal? For everybody? Of course it cannot be, because of this particular, the particular context of aging and this particular population. So that committee, which I belong to, the technical working group, now had to look critically at the situation analysis and then say, no, there are certain things that have to be part. And so this check that we're talking about
has to be part of the package.
Mainstreamed
in the package.
Part of the package, at least once
Very
a year.
important.
And all those, geriatric conditions, especially health promotion. So talk about health promotion.
Very important.
Health promotion,
Very key.
literacy. And also that is why now the National Senior Citizen Center is working very closely with there's a technical committee now with the National Primary Healthcare Center, healthcare development agency, to now mainstream the geriatric assessments. Because of course, before now, if you go to any primary care, it's mother and child.
Mm-hmm.
You're biased.
Well, not necessarily mother and child.
Mostly mother and child.
Yeah, but,
mostly mother and child. So now we'll begin to have, after this is done, with all the 40,000 a year or more, primary care centers, scattered around Nigeria. Yeah. So that will now be accessible, and then appropriate care, at least primary care for older people.
Yeah. All right.
To be able to do this.
All right. One of the things that really concern old people is activities. Yeah. I know that a lot of times we tell our parents, go back inside. Go back inside. The car will knock you down, all of that. But there are safe activities. You're guilty too. All right, let me show you something. A game recently played and enjoyed by elderly people. And I think it should encourage a whole lot of us. Let's see this.
Encounter. But for these teams, the impact of this match is greater than any cup competition. This is due to the shared vision of COSROPIN, the coalition of societies for the rights of older persons in Nigeria, which is to awaken the consciousness of Nigeria towards promoting and ensuring the well-being, welfare, and dignity of older persons in the country.
If I take myself into consideration, I'm 75 years of age, and some of the men and women you see here are over 60, some close to 70 as well. So we are trying to also portray that there is need for even the older persons to exercise.
This exciting encounter between COSROPIN and Abuja chapter of Nigeria Football Coaches Association was not just to promote the National Senior Citizens Games agenda, but also to mark the 2021 United Nations International Day of Older Persons.
This year is all about digital equity, making sure that everyone, the young, the old, get to have access to technology. Bearing in mind that most older persons are lonely, and right now we are having what you call the global exodus, the exodus of our youth. That's leaving most of our older persons very lonely and very secluded. So on that note, if they can have access to being able to use their phones to the extent that they can communicate with their loved ones wherever they are in the world, it will help to reduce loneliness.
Our advocacy gave rise to the Senior Citizen Center, both the bill and the inauguration. So our responsibility to make sure that older persons are well looked after.
According to the United Nations, the number of older persons in sub-Saharan Africa is projected to more than double, reaching more than 100 million persons in 2050, an increase of 218% from 2019. The advocacy of COSROPIN is expected to provide the platform for the enrichment, sustenance, and well-being of senior citizens in the country.
Okay, that's a nice one, and I can hear someone saying right here, I think I should organize this in my state.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm saying I'm all part of it when you do.
Yeah, sure, I will
All right.
invite you.
Questions are coming in, and this one is actually around the issues of activities that should also help the mind. But I don't know. Let me quickly take this and let's the response answer. It says, please, I'm 69 years old. I am all alone. Sometimes I do feel like having sex. What do I do? He didn't write his name, but he says he's writing from Ibadan.
I don't know who says elderly people shouldn't have sex. Because if they do have sex, especially for the male folks, it's different for the women.
Why?
You see, it's a woman can control herself.
I intend to do that till I'm 120.
And
I
still,
don't know what to do.
God bless my life.
A woman,
120, I'm
It's
still
society
on
that
it.
puts women in that cage.
but you see, I live in the real world, and that's it. That's the way it is. The men must. See, he's 69. He's still functioning.
He's too young.
He's functioning because most men have medical issues, and with the drugs they take, maybe they are not functionable. I don't know. I'm just guessing, but it's obvious that for him to be 69, I think he's still functioning. So I think he should go with his own peg. He should look for an elderly lady. You don't have to be married. People, no, I'm saying not necessarily. Yes, because I want him to live longer than 69, because if he tends to go after the ones who are very young, most of these elderly people have had heart attacks. So I think it's advisable, go with your age. I'm being honest. Go with your age. No, you see, this is my own, that's my own opinion. You know, because if you go, you see, I'm telling you, we've had series of people who have had.
Makes you happy.
No, I know. They make you happy. Sex is very important, and I'm very happy we're talking about it. Not we go in and shish. You know how the typical Nigerian, oh my God, why are they talking about sex? Guess what? Most people, it keeps them going, and it makes them, their lifespan it increases. But the thing here is, I think going after the very young ones is not advisable for me. That's my own opinion.
Know your capacity.
Yeah, I want to say that in speaking about sex, the way we are discussing it, it's like we are removing it, taking it off the context of emotional bonding. Emotional bonding.
Okay.
That's an expression of loneliness and isolation.
Okay.
And these are also symptoms of ageism. You know, that negative, that prejudice, that negative, the stereotypes that because you're old, you cease to function. Because you're old, how can you even speak about that? You know, so this is society.
Yes.
And this is ageism.
Yeah.
So now, why is the man saying that? Because he's isolated. Because there are no friendships. And even when you say, go with your age, that is really also... I hear echo of ageism. In other words, because you're 69, you're not going to be attractive to somebody that is 40. Or in other words, because you're 69, take it very easy. Take it, just look for somebody that, you know, is almost wrinkling like you.
Man, just be an
like that. But let me use this opportunity to say here that one of the mandates of this center, you know, the functions, is to build senior centers. Geographical safe places within communities for recreation. You know, for, you know, meeting, greeting, social connection, you know, talking to your peers. And we intend to give it an intergenerational, you know, slant, where we will create, you know, where you can come, you have experience incubation, bring all your experiences.
That's a good one.
And then we intend to make it in such a way that we incentivize the youth to come. Otherwise, it will be another isolation center.
Exactly.
You take your father there and they say,
just stay there, we're coming. And then,
But we are initiating many programs that will be very attractive, even for youth to earn credits. To be able to use
honestly, I want to advise that please ensure that all of this are pushed down the state. And would happily work
even
with
talking
you.
to you. It's not about pushing down the state. I just told you that we are writing the strategic plan, and in writing the plan, you know, we consulted with stakeholders, critical stakeholders. We have 8, you know, categories of stakeholders: MDAs, government, you know, 19 states in the north. Came across all that. So we got input from them. And we were in the south. Your state was represented. Your state was there. And the mandate is that this has to be, we have to cascade it down.
Yeah,
we have to encourage the states to domesticate the acts.
Yeah.
Because that act is beautiful.
All right.
That act is beautiful.
So,
so now that you're here, I will not let you go until we talk about that.
Medically speaking, what does the art of intercourse, or sex as we call it, you know, do for the mind and the mental being of the partakers?
Okay.
Especially when they are aging.
Yes. So let me state very clearly that sexual intercourse, right, is very, very important to persons who are aging. Very important. Somehow, like she had said, society stereotypes you and says, look, you're too old to be doing that. You're too old to be discussing that. These people are under pressure. They're under stress. And all sort of things are going on. So they don't have to bother about themselves alone. Their children, their grandchildren, if they do not have, that's yet another worry. How they would end up is yet another worry. So all of this puts mental stress on them. And I know you already know that by the time someone is getting older, a lot of other health conditions could arise. One of the ways, one of the very potent ways of relieving older people is by having sexual intercourse.
Really?
Very, very potent.
Wow.
It releases pheromones. It releases hormones. That's a well-being kind of hormones that makes you feel well. It energizes you. Minus that, she mentioned something, bonding, emotional bonding, right? It creates a new look. You've heard a lot of people suffering from amnesia. You've heard people suffering from Alzheimer's disease and Parkinsonism and the rest of it. There's no therapy more effective than that emotional connection and bonding.
The touch.
That touch, that hug, that embrace, it's
and
so
music.
Powerful.
It's just
No,
it's
but
so
it's,
powerful.
Is it companionship and the touching, sex?
So sex is not, you don't have sex standing at one door and the other at the other door, right? It's the same thing. It's a full package.
Okay.
So you need to hold somebody all night. You need to bond with somebody. You need to just have someone check up on you. How are you feeling? That's enough to bring you out of a whole lot of stuff. So we advise that they should.
Can I chip in? I think we didn't talk about that. I noticed with the elderly, the women tend to live longer than the men. And somebody asked the question, why? Because most of the time the women keep themselves busy. The men, the elderly men now, what they're doing is they're playing golf. But golf is not a cheap...
But you're only talking about
well, not just golf. Exactly.
Yeah, so I'm just saying.
They play
draft. Okay, they play draft. Then they do kalo, all those. Especially the ones in the village.
Yes.
But in the city, how many people play kalo? How many people play draft?
But you know that. You know that in Nigeria the population is almost as bad. Nigeria is quite different.
Really?
I'm still investigating why that is.
Because somebody says the ratio of the women is higher than the men.
No, it is higher. It is slightly higher from the data, exactly. Okay. But then it's getting close, but it's a bit higher for the women.
But aging for the woman is very different. Because it's like we call it a multiple jeopardy.
Yeah.
One, you are old, and then you are a woman, the gender issue, of course.
No, you see,
and then of course now you are widowed.
Yeah, okay, let me use myself as an example. Yeah. I'm in my 50s. Yeah. I'm not married. I don't have any kids. And the way we are around here is, since you're not married, it's a sensitive issue. When you're old, who will take care of you? You're taking care of your parents. You've done a beautiful job with that. Why don't you adopt this? Why don't you get this? Why don't you do surrogate? See, Nigeria is a difficult country.
Please adopt me.
And you know what I tell them?
I get this.
I am doing stuff that would help me with old age. I'm not going to wait and burden any child.
Like we have said, are not even available to
they are not even available.
We send them abroad, like you said.
I always tell people, I see the younger ones treat their parents like trash. I'm amazed. I see kids who don't call their parents. Yeah. And I said something to somebody. I said, our generation is going to be different. Ours was different. Yes, I would have loved to have kids. Luckily, I have nephews, I have nieces, and my nieces say, we take care of a mommy. You're a big mommy too. We take care of you. I don't get drained with negative energy because I'm not married and I don't have kids. You see, this thing, I think your center too should be able to, try and tutor people, talk about it, because most people who are elderly my age, I'm lucky, I'm super confident, and I've prepared how I'm going to live. But many people don't have those kind of things.
All right. Our time is almost up. Let's see if we can interact. A lot of messages. Good morning, everyone. I want to suggest Old People's Home, where they can do a lot of activities planned for them that relates to their age. I don't know how many of them I can take. Let's see. Kudos to teaching and keeping the flag flying. Thank you. This is a Nancy Siokoro. Didn't tell us where you're writing in from. Another one said, most women tend to deny their old husband the opportunity of having sex with them by making them feel bad. You didn't write your name, but he says writing it from Benue State. I can't take all your messages, sorry. Let's see if we can have it take to some other time. Say good morning, DG.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you for all your efforts, and I retired from public service 2018, but since then, we have been removed from NHS, from our numerous hospitals.
Trying to get them back on board.
What are you doing about it? That's for the DG to answer you later, but not now because our time is up. Thank you so much for coming.
You're welcome.
And I know that all of us here are having very lovely old age. Please, let me kindly accept my invitation ahead of time, because when I turn 100, I'll be having my beach party.
Wow.
Yes.
Fantastic. Exactly. How did you know?
Please, let me welcome all of you to, get interested in the workings of the National Senior Citizen Center. Okay. I'm grabbing her now, and we're going to talk about how to cascade it in Cross River State.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's good.
The media is doing great work.
No, for me, this is one of the best conversations I've had today.
Yes. And we'll continue the conversation
yes,
after now.
I have learned so much.
Ladies, we'll continue with the talk after the camera rolls. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you.
You can't talk enough. I don't know.
God, he went so fast.